Hello and welcome to Kind Medical's presentation for the Australian Cannabis Summit. My name is Josh Griffin and I'm the Medical Education Specialist for Kind. Today we'll be speaking about cultivation, compliance, Cannabis 2.0 and what this means for you as healthcare professionals. We'll cover a variety of topics today, including Australia's evolving landscape, taking a deeper look into the increasingly large range of brands and products available to prescribers, and we'll also speak about cannabis cultivation methods and the nuance of the cannabis plant, including its anatomy and how cultivation, curing and trimming ultimately influence the final product. We'll also touch on the exciting developments in Cannabis 2.0 and what this means for healthcare professionals. To wrap up, we'll also provide an overview on some compliance considerations for healthcare professionals. Before we dive into the presentation itself, we wanted to provide you with some background about who we are at Kind Medical. As one of Australia's leading medicinal cannabis companies, our mission is to make high-quality medicinal cannabis more accessible and more affordable for Australian patients. Our name reflects more than just our products. It's the core of who we are. We're committed to operating with kindness, extending from our patients to healthcare professionals and the planet. We offer a range of prescriber support tools and educational content, which you can access through our website at kind.com.au or by emailing us directly at hi@kind.com.au. So how has the product landscape evolved over the past 12 months? If you've been in the medicinal cannabis industry as a healthcare professional, you might have noticed the sharp rise in the number of products available. From a growing number of format types to increasing diversity in strains and other formulations, choosing the right medicine is becoming increasingly complex. We've analysed data extracted from third-party platforms to track insights into the product trends emerging in the medicinal cannabis industry. Through analysis of this data, we found that over the past 12 months, there has been a 42% increase in the number of products available, growing from 354 in June of 2022 to 501 in June of 2023. Flower medicines have seen the single largest increase in the number of products available, growing by 98% and now accounting for 52% of all products in market today. This is a stark contrast to where the industry was only a few years ago. We've also begun to see the emergence of a new type of administration method that is growing rapidly in the market, and that is vape cartridges. These products have seen a 600% growth over the last year, and we forecast that this trend will continue to rise in the future. So have we seen a shift in the leading product type in market? Since the start of the medicinal cannabis industry in Australia, oil products that are administered sublingually have been the dominant product in market. For many, oils represented an entry point into the world of medicinal cannabis as it provided a familiar administration method relative to others such as dried flower. However, we've seen a shift over the last 12 months. Oils have seen a contraction in the number of products available, shrinking by 6% over the calendar year. Flower products have now become the single largest format in the market, and this is in line with what we've seen for prescription volumes by medicine format, with oils going from the most prescribed format to now being second behind flower medicines. So what does this growth mean for healthcare professionals? It's not just products that have seen rapid growth, but also the number of brands available. On an almost weekly basis, we see several new brands entering the market. Healthcare professionals are now faced with greater choice, and with this comes the challenge of accurately evaluating the differences between products and brands, which poses its own unique set of considerations. So why should healthcare professionals understand cannabis cultivation? Well, by understanding how cannabis is cultivated and some of the key differences between cultivation methods and products may make it easier to navigate the growing number of products currently available. In this next section, we'll review some fundamentals of the cannabis plant, taking a look at its anatomy and diving into the world of cannabis cultivation. So what are the key parts of the cannabis plant? At a high level, the cannabis plant is composed of three core elements: the stalk and stem of the plant, the fan leaves, and the cola, which is also known as the flower or flower bud. When it comes to medicinal cannabis, the cola is our main area of interest. This is the flower of the cannabis plant that is dried and trimmed and is what patients receive if they are prescribed dried cannabis flower. For oils and extracted products, this flower undergoes a process of extraction and refinement, which we'll touch on a little later. The cola itself is composed of several key features. These include the flowers themselves, which contain the trichomes. In addition, the cola contains sugar leaves and pistils. The flower contains the largest amount of trichomes, which are the resin-filled glands containing the largest concentration of cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids. There are several different types of trichomes, each having its own unique structure. Generally, trichomes are filled with clear or milky coloured resin, but can be amber coloured as well. Historically, people judge the quality of cannabis based on the amount of trichomes visible on the cannabis flower. The greater number of trichomes generally meant that the flower presented a frosted appearance, and as such, people associated this with greater potency of cannabinoids and terpenes. This approach is still commonly used in recreational markets, but only tells a part of the story. So now that we know a bit more about the cannabis plant and its anatomy, let's talk about cultivation. When it comes to commercial cannabis cultivation, the main differences come down to the environment in which it's grown. There are three distinct types of growing environments, and these are indoor cultivation, outdoor cultivation, hybrid, and greenhouse cultivation. So what is indoor cultivation? As the name suggests, indoor cultivation involves growing the cannabis plant within an indoor facility using artificial lighting. Growing indoors enables cultivators to have the most control over the growing environment. They are able to tailor the amount of light, temperature, and humidity of the environment to the needs of a specific cultivar. How does this work in practice? Well, if we take a look at the indica and sativa plants as an example, they each have different needs in terms of light. Sativas may need more exposure to light than their indica cousins. Indoor growers using artificial light can make sure that the plants have an optimal environment to grow regardless of the outdoor conditions. However, this comes at a cost. The facilities and energy required to produce cannabis indoors make it expensive to cultivate at scale, a cost which may ultimately be passed on to the patient. What is outdoor cultivation? With outdoor cultivation, a grower plants their crops outdoors and uses the natural environment to support growth. The grower isn't able to control the external environment, with light, temperature, and humidity being determined by the surrounding climate. Instead, growers will select strains that are already suited to the conditions of the cultivation site. Outdoor cultivation tends to be one of the most cost-effective methods, which is attributed to the fact that there is no need for large-scale facilities or energy to control the lighting and temperature. However, there are some disadvantages when it comes to growing cannabis outdoors. First, you're at the mercy of the climate. Adverse weather events, such as unseasonably hot summers, can reduce the quality of a crop. For example, heat stress may reduce the THC concentration in a flower or the total yield. Additionally, cultivators will need to be fully equipped in order to combat pests, which may be more abundant in the external environment. What is hybrid cultivation? Hybrid or greenhouse cultivation takes elements from both indoor and outdoor cultivation and combines them. Greenhouse cultivation takes advantage of having a protected and controlled environment, growing the cannabis crop within an indoor greenhouse. However, cultivators can use natural sunlight or a combination of sunlight and artificial light to reduce their energy consumption. The growing environment remains controlled, but without heavy energy use, cultivators are able to reduce the costs of cultivation and pass those savings on to patients. We can take a look at Kind Medical's cultivation for a real-life example. Today, Kind Medical's range of medicinal cannabis flower is sourced from one of the world's leading cannabis cultivators in British Columbia, Canada. All of our medicines are sun-grown in a modern state-of-the-art greenhouse, and as such, our medicines possess a unique combination of traits. First, they are pesticide-free, grown in a coconut husk and fed a proprietary food blend. They're also naturally sun-grown and are produced with science and at scale for consistent EU GMP quality and supply. Because we leverage a large-scale greenhouse cultivation backed by expertise, we're able to provide consistent access to high-quality medicines at affordable prices. So what happens after cultivation? Now that we know a little more about cannabis cultivation, this is only the first step in producing dried cannabis flower. Post-harvest processing, which involves everything after the plant is harvested, is just as important as the cultivation method itself. Post-harvest processing involves 3 key steps, which are drying and curing, trimming and detailing, and sterilization, packaging, and quality assurance. Today, we'll be focusing on the first 2 stages, drying in addition to trimming and detailing. So what is drying and curing? Once the cannabis plant is matured, it's harvested and then dried in order to remove excess moisture, preserve shelf life, and prevent mold growth. This process is critical to maximize the terpene and cannabinoid content contained within the flower and to extend its shelf life. Trimming and detailing is a process in which the cannabis flower is separated from the rest of the plant and is trimmed to remove excess plant material. So what are the differences in post-harvest? There are a number of different methods used to dry, cure, and trim the cannabis flower in order to have it ready to be packaged. Different manufacturers may use a combination of these processes in order to produce their final product. We can take a look at 2 common, yet different, post-harvest processing paths. Here's an overview of a common approach. Once the cannabis plant has matured, it's harvested. The plant then undergoes a trimming process called wet bucking. Wet bucking is an automated process that separates the cannabis flower from the stalk via machinery. The stalk is fed into a machine that strips the collar away from the stalk itself. And while efficient, this process may shake trichomes from the flower loose, potentially resulting in a reduction in terpene and cannabinoid content. Once the flower has been separated from its stalk, it undergoes a tray drying process. In this process, the cannabis flower is placed on a tray to dry, and while there are some benefits to this process from a cost perspective, using tray drying may lead to some flower compression and potentially uneven drying due to its orientation. Once the drying process is complete, the flower then undergoes final detailing to remove any excess plant material from the flower. Producers may use a combination of automation and hand grooming here. Once this has been finalized, the flower undergoes sterilization, quality assurance, and then packaging. At Kind, we've opted for another post-harvest method to ensure our products are the best quality products they can be. Our process is as follows. Following the harvest of the mature cannabis plant, the whole flower is hung dry. What this means is the plant is allowed to dry while still attached to the entire cannabis branch. This allows the flower to retain its natural shape, in addition to enabling better retention of cannabinoids and terpenes via the trichomes remaining intact. Once this is complete, the flower is then trimmed by hand from the branch and detailed to ensure the removal of the most amount of excess plant material while ensuring the product is treated with care. Once complete, the flower undergoes sterilization, quality assurance, and then packaging. So what is Cannabis 2.0? So now that we know a bit more about how dried cannabis flowers come to be, let's take a look at Cannabis 2.0 products. Cannabis 2.0 are simply products that have leveraged the extracts from the cannabis plant and utilized novel administration methods. Some examples of Cannabis 2.0 products from other markets include cannabis-infused vaporizers, cannabis topicals, cannabis edibles, beverages, and certain unique sublingual administration methods. Some, but not all of these products have made their way into the Australian market. This is because of the high production standards for pharmaceutical grade medicines in Australia. with overseas producers opting to service their local adult use markets rather than investing the time, effort, and money into bringing certain products up to the GMP specifications. Although, in time, we may see this change. So, what are cannabis extracts? A good starting point to understand Cannabis 2.0 is to first understand what cannabis extracts are. Through a series of extraction and refinement processes, we can take the most important compounds from the cannabis flower and concentrate them into an oil or other extract. The level of terpenes, cannabinoids, and flavonoids contained in the product depend on how refined the extract is. There are a variety of different extract types that can be derived from the cannabis plant. In the most simple terms, extracts differ based on how much they have been refined. In all extracts, the cannabis flower is used as a starting material and undergoes an extraction process. Following this initial extraction, the oils are refined to create a number of different types of extracts. We can view the differences in these products on a spectrum of least to most refined. On one hand of the spectrum, you have minimally refined extracts, such as full spectrum oils, live resins, and rosin. These products can be further refined into distillate and isolate-based products. In general, the least refined products contain the full spectrum of compounds found within the cannabis plant, which results in higher terpene content and greater modulation of THC via the entourage effect. On the other hand, highly refined products can be classified as narrow spectrum, featuring only select cannabinoids and removing the presence of terpenes and other phytocompounds found within the cannabis plant. With that being said, there is a place for a range of cannabis extracts within a healthcare professional's toolkit. In some instances, distillate products may be more cost-effective or useful in treatment due to their high concentrations of THC, CBD, or minor cannabinoids. So, what are the extraction processes used to produce cannabis extracts? There are a number of different extraction methods used to separate compounds within the cannabis plant, and the most common extraction methods are solvent-based extraction and carbon dioxide extraction. For both of these extraction processes, the flower is combined with either supercritical carbon dioxide or ethanol, which pulls the oils from the cannabis plant. The ethanol, or CO2, is then separated from this oil and is then refined to its desired end product. So why should healthcare professionals consider cannabis extracts? While vaporizing dried cannabis flowers may provide the highest fidelity of terpenes and additional compounds found in the cannabis plant, for some patients, the administration process may prove challenging. Weighing the dose, grinding the flower, and then inputting this into a dry herb vaporizer may be quite daunting for those who are cannabis naive or for those who have mobility challenges. This is where cannabis extracts, in particular the 510 vaporizer cartridges, may be useful. Using a 510 vaporizer cartridge allows healthcare professionals to enable patients in the use of inhalation administration methods which provide rapid onset of action, but in an easier way. Cartridges that contain the extract are simply screwed into an accompanying battery device and can immediately be administered. This may prove useful for patients with high-frequency dosing needs or limited mobility. However, there needs to be a considered evaluation of the potency of the medicine and the strength of the accompanying device in order to evaluate dosing instructions. There are many different extracts contained within vaporizer cartridges available in Australia today, from full spectrum oils that contain the range of cannabinoid and terpenes found in specific strains to distillate and other formulations. We're excited to continually see the development of new products designed to support patients in the Cannabis 2.0 space. So what should healthcare professionals look for from a compliance perspective? We wanted to end this conversation with a high-level overview of compliance considerations for healthcare professionals when it comes to evaluating products. Overall, ensuring compliance to the standards set forth by the TGA is primarily the responsibility of the sponsor of the product. This may be the brand itself, or in some cases a distributor or other third party. It is incumbent upon the sponsor to audit the manufacturing standards of the product to ensure they are produced in compliance with TGA requirements, in addition to reviewing quality documents to ensure products meet the relevant testing standards. One thing that healthcare professionals can view to evaluate a product is to check the Certificate of Analysis, otherwise known as a COA. These COAs are generally available on prescribing platforms or upon request from the product company. COAs are essentially a document that compiles the tests performed on a product outlining its conformance to relevant standards set forth by the TGA, for example, the levels of pesticides, solvents, or heavy metals. Additionally, COAs provide detailed product information in terms of cannabinoid potency in addition to terpene profiles. Healthcare professionals can review these COAs to identify the concentration of cannabinoids and terpenes within these medicines to evaluate their suitability. Thank you for your attention. We hope this presentation provided some valuable information. We're here to help, so if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out.